Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's Phonics for Year 2, Grasshoppers and Dragonflies. So, today we're going to have another look at the words of the week that we are going to practice reading. So, let's have a look. Who can tell me what that word is? Excellent. Cried. Next one. Stopped. Well done. Then, thought. Brilliant. We then have saw, well done, and who can read that one? Found, brilliant. Then we have the word fell. What's this one? Told. And then we have the word gave. Well done for reading those out. Our challenge today is, can you say these words in a sentence? So you might want to pause the video at this point and you can take each word in turn and put it into a sentence. Like you might say, I cried when I cut my knee. Or you could even use two words in a sentence, like I cried when I fell over. So have a little go at putting those words into a sentence verbally. Okay, so as you know, we've been doing lots of work on adding the suffix ed and from changing the word from the present to the past tense. We're just going to recap the rules once again on what we do with those. So a regular verb, if it already ends in an E, we just add a D to it. So like becomes liked. If a regular verb with one syllable ends with one vowel and a consonant, we double that consonant before adding the ed. So jog would become jogged. And if words end in an X, they are not double because the X is already a blend of two consonants. So box would become boxed. Okay, the short vowel sound, with the exception of verbs ending in a Y, we just add an ED. So back becomes backed. With the long vowel sound, again, with the exception of words that have the I sound spelt with a Y, we just add ed. We don't change the root word. So seat becomes seated. And then yesterday we investigated how the ed suffix was added to a word that ends in a Y, which makes the E sound. What do we do for that? We just drop the Y and we add an I. So their worry became worried. So today we are carrying on looking at adding that ed suffix to a word. Again, words that end in a Y, but where it makes a different sound at the end. So yesterday we were looking at where the Y makes the E sound. Today we are looking at where the Y makes the I sound. So let's have a look. It's exactly the same rule. We drop the Y and we add an I. And let's have a look at some examples here. Try becomes tried. We drop the Y and add an I. Supply would be supplied, dropping the Y and adding an I. Spy becomes spied, again dropping the Y and adding an I. And then we've got satisfy would become satisfied. And again, we drop the Y and add an I. So what we're going to do now is you are going to look at some examples like we did yesterday of words that use this rule where they end in the I sound but spelt with a Y. So we've got the word fry, fry, and that would become fried, fried. So perhaps get yourself a pen and paper and then you can write these down as we go through. So on this example here, the Y is changed to an I, and then we just add the ED. So fry, becomes fried. Okay, let's look at the next example. Pry, pry. Can you now write down what you think is going to happen to the word when we add the suffix ED? Remembering today's rule where we drop the Y and add an I. Off you go. See if you can write that one down. Okay, let's have a little look. So pry is going to become pride. Let's see how we spelt that. P-R-I-D, pride. Brilliant, well done. Let's look at our next one. Cry, cry. What's cry going to become when we add that ed suffix onto it? Can you try and write that one down now? Remembering to replace the Y with an I. Brilliant. Cry becomes cried. Well done if you got that correct. Our next one is dry. Dry. What's that going to become? Can you write it down? Dry is going to become dried. How are we going to spell it? Don't forget to replace the Y with an I. Let's have a look. Dry becomes dried. Dried. And lastly, here we've got the word apply. Apply. So let's change apply from the present to the past tense. What's it going to become? Don't forget our spelling rule, replace the Y with an I. So apply is going to become applied. Applied. If you want a little bit more time at doing these words, perhaps pause the video now so that you can have a little bit more time. So fry became fried, pride became pride, cry became cried, dry became dried, and apply became applied. Okay, today we are not going to be writing some sentences, but practicing reading some sentences. So some sentences are going to pop up on the screen now. I want you to have a little look and see if you can read them along with me. They are using a few of the words that we have been learning this week. So how are we going to start this? Can you try and read it on your own? Perhaps pause the video so that you can read it first, and then I'm going to go through it with you. So we've got as, I, and then we've got one of today's words, fried. As I fried my egg. As I fried my egg, I burned my finger. I burned my finger and I cried. As I fried my egg, I burned my finger and I cried. There's 3 words in there using our ed suffix rule. 2 are using today's rule, where we're changing the Y to an I, and 1 is just using the adding ed in the word burned. So we've got fried, burned, and cried. So let's just read that one more time. As I fried my egg, I burned my finger and I cried. Excellent. Well done if you managed to read that one. Okay, the second sentence here starts with I. Felt. Bit of a big word next. Maybe you need to try and break that up if you aren't too sure. Perhaps pause the video to help. So I felt satisfied. What do you think that makes? Satisfied. Satisfied. I felt satisfied. And then we've got that I tried. That I tried. So I felt satisfied that I tried my best. I felt satisfied that I tried my best with my home learning. So let's see if we can put the whole sentence together. I felt satisfied that I tried my best with my home learning. Again, we have got 2 of our words in there for today's rule, where we drop the Y and add an I. We've got satisfied and tried. And also, I hope you noticed that each sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. And there are also finger spaces in between each word, which is obviously very important when we are writing our sentences. I hope you've managed to read those sentences there yourself. So what I'd like you to have a think about now is, could you create your own sentence that includes at least 1 base word adding the ed suffix from the words that we have learned today? Okay, we may want to go back and have a look at some of the words we just looked at. Okay, we've got words like fried, cried, tried, satisfied, carried, emptied. All the words we looked at yesterday as well as today. Can you make up your own sentence using any of those words that use the replacing a Y with an I rule? Okay, that is it for today. Thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you again for tomorrow's phonics. Goodbye.